Maybe just to get started, introduce yourself. What is it you do at Reckitt, and maybe put another way, what is it that you don't do at Reckitt?
So Imteaz, I work at Reckitt. I've been at Reckitt now 14 years. I've worked across the Australian, the UK, Western Europe, and now the North American markets over the last 14 years. I started my career in sales, so managing customers like Woolworths and Coles in Australia,
Yep.
as well as the pharmacy business in Australia. And then I somehow fell into e-commerce about 8 years ago. Not because I was qualified to do so,
Yeah.
but because I was good at PowerPoint and Excel. Management team
So
was
what was e-commerce like 8 years ago when you were first introduced to it?
Back in Australia, it was just all bricks and clicks. It was literally what the retailers were doing, and we were just working out how much content can we pump into them. Retail media was only just starting. We didn't have what we have today in terms of search. Search results were still alphabetical.
Yep.
Or
Wow.
categories were still alphabetical. It was good fun.
No sponsored ads, no sponsored products, none of those things. Super interesting. And so today, with the business that you work with, are you looking across all of what we call like retail e-commerce, would be like Amazon, Walmart.com, the Instacarts of the world, et cetera, versus direct to consumer? I assume you look after all retail e-commerce is the scope.
So out of my last 8 or so years in e-commerce, 5 of those years were in D2C. So from inception of D2C for the total organization and the scale up of that, and having it into a big and stable business, I was part of that journey. And now my hyper focus is within performance marketing for the nutrition business here in the US.
But when you look at performance marketing, are you looking at Facebook, Instagram as an acquisition channel, or is it, say, the Amazons and the retailers, retail media networks? How do you look at that?
So for the activations that we would do through the likes of Amazon, Walmart, and Target, we're buying media on those platforms.
Yep.
And yes, that is part of my remit. But for direct to consumer, you have to acquire consumers wherever they are.
Yep.
So that is inclusive of the outside ecosystems of Google and Facebook, email channels as well, our own apps, etc.
What are your views on the changes with iOS and Facebook? I mean, data I've seen, I spent a lot of time with direct consumer businesses. It's just destroyed a ton of companies. Like, acquisition costs have fundamentally broken businesses now. And what we're finding is a lot of brands have no choice but to go figure out retail e-commerce, right? Like, grow on Amazon, grow on Walmart.com, just because pure D2C is really, really difficult now.
So for brand new digitally native vertical brands, I agree, it's very hard.
Yeah.
Now, with the nutrition business, one of the things that we've inherited.
You have a brand.
Yeah, we have a brand, but we also have a brand that was built on CRM.
Right.
It was built on first-party data.
Right.
And that's the DNA of this business.
My wife and I got those emails for our newborn that wasn't even born. Yeah,
yes.
But yeah.
So, for us, it hasn't been that much of a big shift in terms of execution and strategy, considering we were very early into the first-party game within the CPG sphere, I would say.
Yeah.
So I'm not that scared in terms of the acquisition side of things.
Yeah.
When it comes to CPA and acquisition costs. Yeah. However, the shift that I am actively thinking about is the way in which new consumers are wanting to consume content, and they're wanting to experience brands. We're seeing all of these new digital native brands launching on TikTok with organic media, with content that resonates with audiences and at a scale that we cannot compete with today. So from a video production point of view, from an influencer strategy point of view, from a creator commerce point of view, that's the stuff that kind of concerns me in terms of how we will build a content and How we're going to build a content and performance marketing strategy around
Machine, right?
yeah, the new way to like acquire consumers profitably
Yeah.
rather than just throwing money at it all the time.
Yeah, and how, I guess on that point, how do you think about even org design? These are capabilities that are not easy to build, and how do you balance between leveraging in-house resources and hiring in-house versus, say, using an agency, using software solutions? How do you think about that?
I think that for the particular maturity that you're at for that particular thing that you're trying to solve for, you have to choose. You have to pick and choose, and you have to have the ability to unlearn and relearn and then do. I'll give you an example. Um, Early on, when I moved to the US, I thought that we could hire data scientists and do all the data
Right.
science work by ourselves, and I was epically wrong. I churned through 2 data scientists in like 6 months because they're like, dude, this work is boring. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I excited them. I hired them. They were super keen to join. But when they saw the grunt work needed, they're like, this is not exciting work enough for me to do.
Yeah.
So since then, we've hired an agency who are great, and they're churning through the work, and they're doing it with a lot of detail. They're understanding the end-to-end problem.
Yeah.
They're bringing in the right resources at the right time. So, one day we might in-house that particular piece of work when we get to the appropriate scale, and once we figured out what we want to do. Content production, we've in-housed. Performance marketing aspects, we've in-housed. But that has come at a certain maturity. It hasn't come overnight. But I don't ever want to think that the model or structure that I've built for my business today is what is going to exist in 12, 18 months' time.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I think it's a common progression we've seen, which is start with agencies, learn it, figure it out, but then you eventually bring certain functions back in-house, which is a very interesting playbook that a lot of direct consumer startups do it in that way as well, right? So I am curious about sort of the retail media world. There's a lot, even at Groceryshop, everyone seems to be throwing their retail media product that they have. What do you think is real? What's exciting to you, and which is sort of like I don't know, I'm not so hot about it so far.
For me, at the end of the day, specifically for the category that I work in, it's about looking at new to brand users, an acquisition of new to brand users, right? Like for a lot of CPG categories, you acquire somebody once. If they have a great brand experience, they're going to be super loyal to you for the rest of eternity, hopefully until they die. But when you work in a category that is only needed for a finite period of time, like baby formula, in the US, there's about 10,000 babies being born every day, and there's about 10,000 babies leaving the category every day. So one of the key ways to win in this category is market share. So when we're activating retail media, we need to be very certain that our efforts are actually acquiring new users. We want to maintain the repeat sales as well, but the focus needs to be on acquisition of new users. So the retail media platforms that enable us to see how we are attracting and acquiring new users, that is very beneficial to me versus the ones that just give me a ROAS on my
And I think true incrementality is the piece that I think most don't tell you much about. And it's are they people who already have or would have gotten versus that retail media dollar that I invested in drove incrementality, right? So I think that's one common theme that I'm seeing across a lot of these things. In terms of other technologies or capabilities that you've seen, whether you use them or not, have you been impressed by anything, whether it's stuff that you've seen in Groceryshop or elsewhere?
For me, it's what really excites me, especially when you have first party data, is clean room solutions. So Amazon's just launched their Amazon Marketing Cloud, enabling people with vast data sets to connect into the Amazon Marketing Cloud solution. That is super interesting in terms of really understanding where does conversion happen from a media point of view, and marrying that against our data sets as well. I'm very hopeful that other retailers are going to launch similar sorts of solutions very quickly, because then we can see real performance of our investment to do what we want it to do, rather than just spray and hope for the best that we're getting to the audience that we want to.
Right. I mean, I think the retailers have tremendous data if they're willing to share it and charge a reasonable price for it. It's also incredibly expensive, and I think the other thing that I'm hearing at least is a lot of the gap is connecting online data with offline data. The Nielsen's and IRIs of the world have all the offline data, but they don't connect online. I think that seems to be another opportunity for brands that are like omni-channel essentially as well. Yeah. Anything else that you think has been exciting to you or interesting, or that you're looking forward to for the rest of the show?
Yeah, it was an interesting chat about D2C, and D2C brands now coming to offline and coming to brick and mortar retailers. One of the things, having worked in D2C and seeing the power of D2C, seeing the volume of and the quality of consumer data there, one of the things that really exciting is how CPGs will evolve with our D2C friends within categories that traditionally have never had a D2C brand enter them. So a D2C brand, given the rich information that they have on their consumers, on their customers, they have the ability to really personalize those products or really customize those products and follow the industry trends a lot faster than what a CPG would. But on the flip side of that, having one range review or two range reviews per year per category probably isn't the velocity in which the category needs to move from a retailer point of view. So having that offline assortment, marrying that with an online assortment, which can cater to these new trends that pop up on TikTok, and you see TikTok made me buy it, is going to be a really interesting future of how this omni world is going to evolve.
Where do you think the most growth is taking place when you look at e-commerce, the retail e-commerce and direct to consumer? I mean, my hypothesis is that people are going into wholesale offline because direct to consumer just is really difficult now, right, to acquire, and they have to grow elsewhere. Do you think the growth is in retail e-commerce, or do you think it's actually in D2C?
I think that varies massively category by category, and I think it also it varies based on consumer engagement with said category. So if, for example, there is a niche within a particular category, let's pick organic, for example, and there's no entrance or there's no offers within a particular category of organic, and we know organic's a massive trend, that's an opportunity for a D2C company to enter, charge a 2x price premium versus...
There's no competition.
Basically. No competition. Come in and do it. However, if it's a highly saturated market, low margins, low average order value, there's not a lot of opportunity for a D2C to profitably enter unless they're trying to scale and get a valuation very quickly. One very good example of that is Liquid Death. And what they've done in terms of launching their brand, organically appearing in TikTok, blowing up the water category. I think they're the number 2 water brand in Whole Foods right now. So there is a playbook for this, even on low margin categories. But yeah, those are things that we have to watch out for.
That's awesome. I know you're incredibly busy, and so first off, just really appreciate you being able to join us and being able to share these thoughts, and excited to continue to see what you're building there at Reckitt. But thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Ray. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.